Welcome to this recap video for our spooky skeleton session. In this video, we will go through the main things that we covered in our session, looking at how you can add backdrops and sprites into Scratch, and look at how you can use your block coding to be able to create animations to make your skeletons dance, disappear, spin around. Your creativity can take you wherever you want to. As always with our recap videos, you will be able to pause, rewind and fast forward to the parts that you need. So let's get started and see if we can make our own spooky skeleton animation. To create our own spooky skeletons animation, we are going to go into our web browser on our device. On my iPad, I'm going to use Safari, but you can use any web browser. Then we're going to go onto the Scratch website, which is scratch.mit.edu, and it'll bring up this landing page here. What you'll then need to do is come across to the left-hand side of the screen and choose the Start Creating button. Once you've got to the landing page where we're going to do all of our coding, you just need to tap on the X button to get rid of the tour, and then we have our 3 areas of Scratch where we'll be able to do our coding in this session. So down the left hand side here we have all of our different coloured blocks. You can tap on the colours to get a shortcut to be able to get the different coloured blocks we need. This here is our landing page. This is where we're going to put all of our code. And then this bit here where the cat is, this is where we have our stage. That's where the code actually comes to life. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add our backdrop and add our sprites ready to be able to do our own animation. So the first thing we will need to do is to get rid of our cat sprite because this is spooky skeletons. And we're going to add a new sprite by tapping on the little purple cat button, going to the magnifying glass and starting to search by skeleton. So there we go, there he is. So I'm just going to pop him there. You can also, when you're looking for sprites, scroll down. The sprites are all in alphabetical order. So if you just wanted to go down to the S, you can see there the skeleton is there. And once we've got our skeleton here in our stage, we now need to choose our backdrop. So if you tap on the button that's beside the sprite button, the one that looks like mountains as a picture with an add button, and go to that magnifying glass, you can now see all of these different backgrounds here that you can use. And there are some in here that are really lovely. So I quite like the woods one. You can have the woods and then you can have your skeleton dancing around there as well. If you want to add in your own background, you can do that by tapping on the background button and going right up to the top, which is the upload, and then that can take you to your photo library where you can then choose a picture from there that you can then use, and that then becomes your background there that you have there. And then, as I say, I can tap on my skeleton and just move him around if I wanted to. So now we have our skeleton and our backdrop. Let's take a look at seeing if we can make this skeleton move and animate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the events block and choose this green block that says when the green flag is clicked. And I'm just going to zoom in using these little tools here, the zoom in and the zoom out button, just so you can see my code a little bit easier. Now I need to make sure that my skeleton here is selected with purple, just so you can see that it's the skeleton that we are coding. So what I can now do is I can now start to have a look at seeing if I can make my skeleton dance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the costumes tab, and you can just see that already there are some elements and sprites that have been put into different positions. So if I just come over to my code and I just choose a purple block and go next costume, and then I do a wait block, that will then change the costume and wait a second. But we want that to do that more than once. So let's go to the control button and let's grab this forever block and literally make it hug that next costume and wait block. So now when I press my green flag, you can see that my skeleton is now going through those different movements. Okay, now that's a bit slow. So remember, if I press stop, you can change the speed of things by changing the numbers that are in the white ovals. So let's see what that looks like. That's better. Perfect. But at the minute, everything is facing right. So what we can do is if we come into costumes, we can actually add another costume. So if I tap on B and press duplicate, I can actually now move that one by flipping it the other way around. So I might want to just tap on a couple of these and just move these around in order and just flip them so that they go the other way. So actually we've now starting to get more of a kind of a little dance routine going on. So we can actually just flip these the other way. So let's see now what that looks like. That's looking brilliant. I'm loving that. Perfect. So now we've got that there, you could add in some movement if you wanted to. So for example, we could get it moving as 10 steps. Now 10 steps is going to go right, but you might want it to go left. So if I just move my sprite that way and do minus, let's do 20 steps to make it a little bit bigger. Let's see what that looks like. So he's now starting dance towards the witch. Perfect. Now, what you can also do, can you see there how I moved my sprite over to the side? I'm having to do that all of the time. So what I can do is I can actually put in another when the green flag is clicked. And then I can go to my motion block and I can get it to say go to and the position that it's in at the minute. So if I just move my skeleton up here, for example, now I've put that little bit of code there, I can now see if I press the green flag, he will go to where I've started to, and then he then starts to move around, which is brilliant. There we go. So there are lots of things you can do now to make your animation even better. Why not explore some of the looks blocks? You could get your character to say hello, for example, and you can change what you want your character or your sprite to say. You can also change the colour of your skeleton. So now if I just have a look at these, he says boo, and then when he starts to dance, he then moves and changes colour at the same time. You could also add in some sound effects using the sound blocks and do a little sound when it comes in. Let's do this one and see what the rattle sounds like. Amazing. So we can do any of these different ones. And once you are happy with your creation, you could either screen record it by swiping down and doing a little video. And you can also save your code to your device so that it will save your project file and you can then load it back up at a different date. So have a go at seeing what you can do. Can you change the colours? Can you add sounds? Can you create another sprite where you actually add in and duplicate another skeleton? Maybe make that one a little bit smaller so it looks like it's in the distance. And then have two skeletons doing the same thing. The opportunities are endless. We can't wait to see what you have created. So why not share it with us? Go on to the Showbie app, put in this class code, and you will be able to access our Discover Digital Learning Zone Showbie account. This is where you can share all of your amazing creations with us, and we can have a look at them here at Family Fund and give you some well-deserved feedback. We can't wait to see what you create.